Okay, so what we're
So we're just going to make sure everyone is perfect. It worked for you there. We're just trying to make sure everyone here is up to date and has Git downloaded. But we're going to go over the basic Git flow. And we're also going to go over how to merge, create branches, and then also talk about pull requests. I have a couple of videos as well to kind of go over Git and its how it works, and maybe some of the more advanced topics. We'll talk about stashing a little bit, and we'll touch on rebasing. But I think rebasing might be a little bit too much for a lot of people, but we'll go over the concept of it. And if all those terms don't mean anything to you yet, that's totally okay. That's why we're here. So I'm going to get started here. What is Git and what is GitHub? So a lot of people probably do hear about GitHub and a little bit less about Git. So Git is going to be the actual software that is a version control system. This is what's going to be actually saving all of your changes. This is your local, what is called a repository. And a repository, a way to think about it, is going to be just a file. And that repository is going to have changes over time, and those are going to be commits. These are going to be a history of all your changes. So one of the powerful things about Git is that if you make changes, you have a working, successful application, and you make a couple commits to it over time, and all of a sudden your application stops working. You can always revert back to your history of commits, and that is going to be a really powerful tool, especially, we're not all perfect, and I hate when I mess something up and I have no way to go back. I'm sure we've all had projects that have gone in that direction where we just keep building and building and building, and it just breaks down. And then you feel depleted and you don't even want to touch it anymore. So Git is going to be your local on your machine, and GitHub is just a hosted version of Git. So this is just going to be a repository that's going to be on the internet, and it's going to be at a website called github.com. And I do think that I think we should go over that real quick here. So if you would like, just make sure to follow along here. So I'm going to Google GitHub or just github.com. And what you're probably going to see is going to be a little different because you won't have an account already. But you will just want to sign in quick. They'll be up here in the right-hand corner. Or sign up. Create a account real quick. And just let me know, say something in chat when you do, or if you already have one, and then we'll move on from here. So I do just want to make sure that everyone has a possibility to follow along. Perfect. All right, we got 2 people so far. And I know some of you guys are just also paying attention, following along, so I won't wait for you guys. And then while you guys are making that, I'm just going to go through a couple things here. If you look through here, you have your profile, obviously, and I wouldn't say there's really too much going on here. You could, of course, talk, maybe change your name here, follow people, things like that. These are going to be all your repositories, and I have these pinned up here because these are the projects I want people to see the most. And you can also see your contributions here.
It's not screen sharing.
Yeah.
Is it screen sharing now?
No.
We all just love Zoom, don't we? There you go. Sorry about that. So
we can see it now.
Okay, perfect. What I did was just in the upper right-hand corner, you click that profile icon, and you have all of these here. And this is going to be a lot, but your profile right here, these are going to be your repositories like I was talking about, and I've decided to pin them here. You have a list of all your contributions, and this is also going to be important. We're going to talk about this later, that building a repo isn't going to be the only way to be noticed on Git. I'm sure a lot of us are not just here for fun, but here eventually, in school to get a job. And recruiters will look at your GitHub and they will look at your repos and your projects, but they may also look at your commit history. And I'm not the best at contributing, but the more you contribute to real projects, the better you are, right? Because that's what you'll be doing if you ever do get hired. And we're going to go over some cool repositories at the end, and hopefully you find some that maybe you would like to contribute to as well at some point. And yeah, perfect. All right, if everyone has their GitHub logged into, I think I'm going to move on here to all the fun stuff. This setup part is always going to be the slow, boring part, but and you may be asking why use Git or GitHub. And the answer is you don't really need to, but Git and GitHub are most definitely the industry standard. Even if you aren't using GitHub to host any of your services, you most likely will be using a local Git repository, again, to manage those commits and make sure that you have a history of changes that you could also collaborate and merge to other repositories. And just to give you a little bit of a scope here of how big Git and GitHub are in the world, I found this little video that GitHub's team actually put out, and this shows you kind of the global infrastructure of GitHub and how it's interacting in a really cool way, and visualizes a lot of those data of people going around the world and using GitHub. So and I did just want to pause here on this part of the video. All of these are going to be active contributors across the world. And the ability for you to be able to transmit your code and work collaboratively across the world, I think is one of the biggest powers that GitHub is going to be giving people. There are going to be people who have never met each other, never talked to each other, who are able to commit code in a way that's organized and it's able to be deployed to a production line. Okay. maybe it's just because I'm nerdy. I do really enjoy watching those command lines fly past at amazing speeds. But again, if you do need to download anything, just make sure to take a screenshot or something of these commands. I hope that you do already have it downloaded. But we are going to keep moving here. So one thing that you will need to do in order to actually push or commit from your Git to GitHub is going to be these SSH keys. And unfortunately, in 2021, GitHub made it so you couldn't just log in using your username and password anymore. That would have been too easy and too simple for people to do. But we will go through this real quick here. It sounded like most of the people here have a Windows computer. Of the people who haven't used GitHub here before, it looks like we got a lot of new faces here now. Just in chat to check real quick, is there anyone in here who doesn't have Git or GitHub downloaded that wants to follow along? I just realized how many more people came in. I just want to know if anyone needs me to go over this part. This is something I put in here just in case. Perfect. Yeah. So there's going to be two different ways to do it here, and they are going to be similar, but they will not be exactly the same depending on which one, whether you use Windows or Linux. I am assuming that most people here are using Windows. So maybe I could just go over that. But I just need to know which one you guys would like me to go over quick. Since I am on Linux, I can do an active. I can show you how to do it, but I'm going to walk through Windows here. So first of all, you're going to want to use this keyword SSH-keygen in your terminal. And there's going to be a lot of flags here, and you don't necessarily need to understand what they're doing. But if you copy this along here, SSH keygen-chi, this is going to be the crypto algorithm it's going to use, and then -C, and you enter the GitHub email you're using. And this is how GitHub is going to actually authenticate you to allow you to push and pull. And you will not have to put in your email every time. This is something that is really helpful, and it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. And it's something that I've used specifically. There are some other ways that you can do this by using some UI applications and signing into them and authorizing it that way. But this is going to be just through the terminal. And then after you do this first command here, these two are optional. They will increase security. If you use this first key here, this will prompt you to give it a file name. This is really helpful if you have multiple keys. If you're working with multiple organizations, with multiple accounts, using those different keys are going to be, they can be a little bit complicated, but if you're using it for personal projects and you have your own GitHub and that's really what you're using it for, there shouldn't be any issues here, just using one key. Again, this passphrase here, you could think about this as like a password. This will be prompted to you, I believe, if you try to push or commit. So if you do want a passphrase, just make sure that you remember it if you write it down or however you want to use a password manager. And then down here is actually going to be the next command that you enter. And again, this is going to be Windows specific here. I believe up until now, Linux is the exact same. Linux is the exact same, but this specific part of Windows is a little bit weird. You want to use the git service command here, capital G, capital S, -name, and you're naming that SSH agent. And you're piping that into set service, and you're starting it up manually. So this is just so you can start up the SSH agent and add your key to it. And then you add the key, and you just want to be able to copy this. And then we're going to be going to GitHub to paste that in. And I don't want to rush through this because I know this kind of looks like a lot. But again, you do it once and it's completely over. You know, unless you get a new system or you want to change your OS or something like that, you should have it forever. So is there anyone on a Windows machine here that needs extra time with this, has any questions? I don't want to push you or anything to go too fast.
You might have said this, but the first part where it says enter a file in which to save the key, how do I figure out what file path to use?
So if you just press enter, it will automatically save it to the home, your user, and then you have a hidden file that's SSH. So I would recommend just not pressing anything to make it simpler so you know exactly where it is.
Okay, so
The
just
only, oh, what were you saying?
sorry, so just press enter.
Yeah, just press enter there. And then again, that passphrase is optional. Totally up to you if you would like to use that. And I wish I could go through it and kind of type all this out, but since I have a Linux machine, none of this would really work too well, unfortunately. But I do understand a lot of people do like Windows, so I did want to incorporate this.
Trevor, do we need to run get service as admin because I'm getting like access is denied?
From what I read in the documentation, it didn't say that, but if you can run it as admin, I would.
Okay, I'll run PowerShell as an admin and see what.
Oh, are you in PowerShell or are you in Command Shell?
PowerShell.
Okay, I think this is for command, just the normal command.
But you got the get service, so that's a PowerShell command, and I believe so. We'll see.
Well, what do we do when we have problems? We look at the docs. And something about GitHub that is really nice is the docs are extremely helpful, and they really will kind of walk you through a lot of things. All right.
Already share for the Mac.
Share.
Make sure your microphone's on if you want to say something. Oh, you want to say something? You have to turn on the mic. Is your mic mute?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you already share for Mac?
So Mac should have Git downloaded already. That's why I didn't have that one in there. Do you have access to your terminal right now?
Yeah, I have Git. I thought I missed something.
Oh, my bad. We are talking. So the SSH keys, I am not sure how to do them on Mac specifically, but we can look at the docs right here for you.
I think it's the same. I think if you type, can you type SSH on your terminal and see if you get it?
I have it pulled up right here as well. Is it big enough for you to see?
Yes.
Perfect. So this would be the first one that you type in there. And this keygen, I think, is the same cross-platform for everyone. And I can also just throw this into chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Just make sure to change that that example email there. And then just like with the Windows example, it will prompt you with those two questions. Those are optional. Oh, right. You know you best and what your privacy concerns may be. So you can hit enter for both of those and it would be fine if you would like. Were you still having some issues with the Windows, Professor Tao? Oh, I think you're muted.
Because I think you switched the screen, so I don't have the commands anymore to look at.
Right. Sorry about that. They're all right here, so I kind of thought I would just be able to switch between them here. Right here.
Okay, right there. Okay. So right now I'm running as admin. So let's see.
Admin elevated PowerShell. It says it right here.
Admin.
You were right.
Okay.
You were right. But I think again, it does kind of highlight the fact that we're going to do things wrong sometimes with Git. But just by following the documentation, it's never led me astray. So just to stay on this, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm done with step 1. Running as admin allow me
Right.
to complete step 1. Yeah. So I guess now I have to do step 2 or something.
Yep. SSH add there. And then once you do add it there, just make sure to copy it. And we'll make sure to get Mac going here. And then we'll all go on GitHub because GitHub's going to be the same for all of us.
Okay. Yeah, I'm done with step 2 also.
Okay, perfect. I'll switch it back here to the Mac instructions. So we left off with this one right here, this SSH keygen should generate it. There was 2 questions, totally up to you how you'd like to answer them. And then it's going to be this right here. I'm going to throw this in chat as well. And this would be for Windows. Where is this? This is for Mac here. And then after doing that, you open that SSH config file. And I've never done this on Mac before, but It's never too complicated once you go through it. Perfect. Okay. And then do you have any questions with that? I know I threw those in the chat. Just let me know if you have any questions or problems.
So for this one, does this have to, the one that I just added in the type or in the chat, I can't even speak. Does that have to go on 2 lines? Because like I tried typing it in and it just said command not found, and I don't know if it's because I typed it in like as 1 line, if that makes sense.
Right. So this is going to be for Mac right here. Are you still working on your side for Windows?
Yeah, I'm on Windows and I'm not really sure. I'm kind of stuck. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, I guess, because I was trying to make sure that we could talk about all 3 of them. And I thought this might be a little difficult in person. And that's what I was planning for. But let me just switch back here. I'll throw the documentation in there. And then you could pick your own OS as well. And it should have pretty straightforward.
Oh, I see. I was looking at the wrong one. I was looking at the Linux one. All right, that makes sense.
I may just, yeah. I had the best intentions with the with putting them in the presentation, but I do think just looking, since we're on Zoom, looking at the docs I threw in the chat, and that's going to be the same one that I was just looking at when Professor Tao was asking about that admin elevated PowerShell. So with that documentation in the chat, yeah, once we get through this, I swear it's much easier. And then you said you were a little lost with the Windows mena. Do you kind of have an idea of where you are in the steps right now?
Okay, so I got to the point where it gave me a keys random art image. And then that's where I'm stuck. I was trying to put in the thing that says get service, and then it just says command not found. I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, a couple things. You will have to be in an admin PowerShell, so just try to. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Tao. I haven't used Windows in a couple years now, but you just right-click the PowerShell and run as admin.
So in the search box, in the search, you type terminal, and then you right-click on terminal, and then run as administrator.
I'm kind of following along, but I am also using ChatGPT to help me out. So right after the keys random art image is generated, it said run this command. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that GitHub's docs here. Yeah, that should be the next one. But that should be for Linux, I believe.
I'm on Windows, so
It looks like Windows because it says C colon.
once you run that, you're gonna get a agent PID, that's a process ID. So that means the SSH agent is running right now. And after that, where's the chat?
Yeah, it looks like GitHub just has you go at it from a different angle, which I think is weird. It almost makes it more complicated by doing it their way. Were those commands a little bit more helpful?
There are a couple of commands after that as well. So let me know once you guys are done.
Yeah, do you have the history on your terminal right now?
Are you asking me? Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
can show it.
Yeah, you could share your screen. Yeah.
Give me 1 minute. I just want to make sure that I'm done with the process completely.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. For setup stuff like this, it's always good to use AI to our help.
All right, looks like ran into a little bit of a problem there. Git service, set service manual. Huh.
I hope you guys are able to see. So I'm running this command just to check if I do have any SSH keys already set up, and based on the response, I do not. So then I run this command, SSH key generation, with my email, and that's going to generate the random art image. After you do that, you're running this command to check if your SSH, to actually get your SSH agent running. And then this is my process ID for the agent. After that, you run this command. Let's see if I...
You can use the GitHub the GUI. If you do that, you can sign in directly through there. I just haven't used that before personally. And it will be a little different if you are following along.
I'm not sure where everyone is at this moment. Check.
So it looks like Neju posted his in the chat here. You got there. Eval.
Okay, let's see.
I'm just taking a look at the docs right here to see where this Mac change might have gone wrong.
Yep. So, how many of you have reached the step where you've generated the keys random art image? Anyone?
Yeah, Benji, that's right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
after you do that, Mina, you're on Windows if I'm not wrong.
Yes, Windows.
Okay, let me. Okay, and run that command. Paste it on the chat. After you run that, you're gonna get your agent process ID.
Maybe I missed a step somewhere because it doesn't like the term eval.
I think that's only for Linux. You're using Windows, so it's not gonna work.
Okay,
Do you
sorry.
have WSL installed, TJ?
What's that?
Do you have WSL installed? Maybe that's why it's functioning.
Yeah, he's running is it main? Yeah, it's running.
Could Mina share her screen?
Yeah, yeah. You're running like a version of Linux within Windows. I think that's why it's very different on these docs.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think it might be helpful if Mina shares her screen and we can see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can try that. Okay. Am I sharing? Can you see the?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is where I tried like that get service.
Do you have the Git bash that you've installed earlier?
Let's see.
The one left of that, yeah, that one.
It's the
Yeah,
same.
you can run that command over here. Where's the chat keep
The eval command should work in here. The ones that because this looks exactly like TJ's did.
Yeah, so now you're gonna run the eval command. I don't think you can paste it, copy and paste it, so you might have to type it out. The eval space quotation.
SSH is built into Windows now.
These are the steps that I was looking at. Is there?
So you're in the git bash. I believe this is telling you to use the admin PowerShell, and I think that's where the confusion is right now. So git bash and PowerShell are two different entities, and it does look like git bash is almost using like a Linux type terminal interface.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Okay, so should I be typing it into
Git bash there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead
Looks
and
like
do
you're
it.
one step away. Just keep writing that eval there.
Okay.
I just posted a link about running SSH in Windows.
Oh, would it be this one here?
Yes, that one. Yep.
Turns out the SSH is installed in Windows now.
Okay. So it did something. It says agent PID 1698.
Yep, perfect. Now you're gonna run
This one.
this command. I sent it to you again.
Right. That is the next one. He just put it in chat there.
Oh. I'm trying to figure out where Zoom, which window Zoom went to. Okay. Let's do it.
Okay. Now the next step is to run this command.
And that cat command will just copy it to your clipboard, wouldn't it, TJ?
I'm not sure. I copied it manually.
It copies to my clipboard. I run that command. I run it under git
Yeah.
bash.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
So yeah, I copied that from SSH all the way to the end. And then go to your GitHub profile settings.
Yeah, we'll all do that next here. I want to make sure, Niju, you were working on it with Mac. Are you still having any issues with that, or are you at the same spot?
So I was just waiting for further instruction. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do.
I totally get it. This part can be really confusing, and I totally get it.
Yeah, I'm on the docs.
Yeah. So you're good, Mina. Do you want to share your screen, Niju, just so we can do the same thing with yours here?
Yeah. Give me a second. The screen
that I sent.
there still.
You should be able to share now. All right, so you got down to the art here. PID there. All right.
One question, is this on the Git bash or is this a Mac terminal? Okay.
Mac terminal is using Bash by default.
It should. Eval open. So when you tried that open config, you added
It did.
there.
It did work.
No,
I see that you used a new one.
So the identity has been added. Now she has to run the cat command. I'm just wondering if it's going to be the same on
I can give
Windows
it a
Android.
try.
Let me check.
So do I just run the cat command?
I don't believe that it's the same because it's not Linux.
See on the dock.
Yeah, actually, yeah, run the cat command.
So using
And
I'm gonna try to upload this recording via a link in the Discord, and I can also post it on the Engage.
feature, there's another way I think you could do it. If you go to your Finder, if you go into Finder, and then you look for that directory, you'll probably see that file in there, and then you can open it in the text editor. So we're going to users, YouTube, and do you see the hidden directory .ssh? Yeah, and then inside that, do you see ID underscore file? And then just open it in your text editor.
It says invalid password.
Oh.
It's probably invalid password.
Sure.
Yeah, go to Finder. And do you see, are you in .ssh? Yeah, because it's hidden. I know if you can't see the .ssh because the .ssh is hidden.
Okay.
So I'm hoping this is helpful. Can you show the hidden?
And if you can't, that's okay. We can just do it the other way. I just thought this might be faster. Yeah, show view options. And do you see anything about show hidden? No. Okay, just go back to the terminal.
All right, Banji, do you want to help her since you're there in person? And then we're just gonna move forward and paste it into GitHub, just in the interest of time here.
Where was the terminal that you were in? Yeah.
All right. Yeah, again, you only have to do this once, and it is the worst. It is the worst doing it, but once it's done, it's done. We're going to move forward here into the next step of actually pasting this into GitHub, just so then you have access to it here. So what you're going to do is just go into GitHub and log in here. And then from here, you want to click this profile icon in the right-hand corner. Go down to settings there. And then on this left-hand side, there's going to be a section for SSH and GPG keys. and you won't have one here. I already have mine set up. You're going to want to hit new SSH key there, title it, preferably whatever you would like to identify this computer as. And then you just paste it right in there. And if you followed all the last steps, it should be copied into your clipboard, so you don't have to worry about that. Let me know if anyone has any problems with this next step or any questions.
I'll try this.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this one because when you run the clip command, it already
Yes.
copied it to the
Yeah.
clipboard. And here I just click add SSH and paste into the
Yes.
key.
Uh-huh.
Now you see your.
Then
you
I
see
just
it,
name
right?
this title with my laptop name, like
And whatever it.
Right.
Whatever you can open it in a different editor. Security. I could maybe someone else. But anyway, I hope I wasn't taking you away.
No.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just like, I kind of want to know what was going on.
Okay, does that make sense?
Not right now. Like,
Okay.
so did I like,
So is anyone having any problems with this right now?
so there's no terminal.
Oh, you're in the terminal, go back.
Okay,
This is
yeah.
a terminal.
Yeah.
And then you can do Control X to quit.
TJ, were you able to get your SSH key set up?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, you're done. Perfect. Mena, you having any issues there?
No, I was able to get to it.
Perfect. And I know you're having some issues over there. Need you. I'm just gonna keep moving here. This is gonna be recorded, so if you do figure it out, we're gonna make sure that you're able to see exactly what to do next. That took a little longer than I thought it would. I always estimate how bad that can really be across the different OSs. So here's just going to be a little intro here. This is going to be a good visualization of how GitHub works, and it's going to highlight some of the features that you would be using in a basic workflow, something that you'd be using in a day-to-day job. I don't believe this video talks in anything too complicated in respect to GitHub. So you don't have to understand it all, but it's just going to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about and some visuals to kind of picture it.
are you switching to a different screen because we're still looking at the add
Thanks for
SSH
letting
key.
me know.
I believe.
Thank you for letting me know. Should be on the presentation now.
Yep.
Git can seem confusing at first, but understanding a few key concepts make it much clearer. In this video, we'll walk through the basic Git command workflow and clear up some common misconceptions. I'm San, co-author of best-selling system design interview books. We explain complex system design concepts through animations. Let's get started. Before we dive into the commands, let's identify where a code is stored in Git. The common assumption is that there are only two locations, but our code doesn't only exist on GitHub or our local machine. There are four main locations where our code lives in Git. The working directory, where we actively edit files locally. This is our playground. The staging area is a temporary holding spot for changes before committing. The local repository. This is where we store committed changes locally. The remote repository, a server like GitHub for sharing and backing up code. Now, with these locations in mind, let's visualize where our code travels throughout its journey. Most Git command moves files between these 4 locations. The first step is to git clone an existing repo, so you have a local version of the project to work on, complete with all its history. With the repo cloned locally, let's look at where the code lives. When you start working on a file, you're in the working directory. This is your local development environment where you make changes to your code. Now, when you're ready to commit your changes, you use git add to stage a snapshot of those files in the staging area. Think of this as a checkpoint where your code changes are gathered up and ready to be finalized. The next step is to use git commit, which takes a snapshot of the staging area and saves it to your local repository. This locks in those stage changes by creating a permanent record that you can refer back to, like a snapshot in time. Your code doesn't just stay on your local machine. When you're ready to share your progress with the team or back up your work, you use git push to send your commits to the remote repository. This is often a shared server where your team can collaborate, like GitHub or Bitbucket. Collaboration in Git is a two-way exchange. To integrate your teammates' work, you use git pull, which fetches changes from the remote repository and merges them into your local repository. It combines 2 commands, git fetch, which grabs the latest updates, and git merge, which integrates these updates with your work. There are times when you need to switch context, perhaps to fix a bug on another branch. That's where git checkout or git switch comes in. It allows you to switch between different branches to work on specific features. Git branching allows you to diverge from the main code base to develop a new feature without impacting the main code. Some key concepts include creating a new branch with git branch, switching between branches using git switch, merging branches together with git merge, or resolving merge conflicts when changes overlap. Branching enables isolated development and collaboration workflows. There are more nuance when merging or rebasing changes from others or managing branches. We have a dedicated video on merging and rebasing that we encourage you to watch. Many developers use graphical Git tools like GitHub Desktop and SourceTree. These tools provide visual interfaces and shortcuts for common commands. They can help new users get started with Git more easily.
And those are going to be available to you. I'm going to specifically talk about the CLI, the command line interface here, because that's normally what people will be using. And once you really do understand Git, it does become one of the more simpler ways to do it, in my opinion. One of the first things he talked about there was cloning. And cloning can be the first step in a Git repository for you as a contributor. And one of the hard things about Git is that a lot of the answers to what you should be doing and how you should be doing it is it depends. And you will be cloning, let's say, if you are a employee moving into a existing company, you'll be cloning their main repo to your local machine, and then you'll be working on branches. You will never be working directly on that main branch, but you will be cloning it to your machine so that your changes are consistent with that main branch and able to be pushed to that main branch. Something similar to a clone here is going to be a fork. And this is going to be something where if you find a project on GitHub you really do like, you can fork this repo, which is essentially creating a snapshot in time of that repo and assigning all of that content to your account. That means that if you then change anything there, it's going to be completely separate from that original fork. And both of these can be really useful if you're looking to make changes to an existing project. But what if there is no project? What if you have your own project that you want to make? And that's what I want to talk about first. I did want to give a little overview of this, but I think it's much more important to understand how to make one. So let me switch my screen here. And I'm going to go over a directory that I'm going to work to create a new little repository here. So you guys can see my code editor right now. I just have a simple little hello world program here. Variable hello world, print hello world. I have a little secret folder here. In the real world, this could be a virtual environment, or this could be maybe API keys that you have in here, sensitive data that your application works with. But when you push this to GitHub, you never want to push your keys. You may think that even if it's a small project that no one would notice, but there are a lot of bots that will go through GitHub and they will look for API keys with similar names to keys or API. And if they find it, they can abuse it. And this could be a very devastating thing. And I did it. I've done it once, and I was lucky enough that that API key was a public key and that anyone could access it. Therefore, it didn't impact me. But if it's a private key or if it's an internal key for a company, you could be losing that company tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars by losing that key, right? So you just want to make sure there's certain things you don't want to send to Git. I also have this MP4 here of that little visual earlier. I don't want to send this to Git. I can't really get it there. And then I have all the bash, the little screenshots that I've made in this presentation. A lot of them are right here. I don't want to push this either. So something really cool here is going to be this git ignore file. So git ignore is going to be a hidden folder, just like your SSH folder or file, I should say. This file is going to be what Git looks at when you initialize it to see what it should track and what it shouldn't track, right? So right here, I have it say all MP4 files are ignored and all Python files are ignored. Right here, I designate this specific file. This is another way you could designate what not to be tracked. Everything in here is not tracked. And this is going to be this file directly right here. You could do the same thing with directories. So this secrets directory with my diary.txt in here, I don't want you guys to read my diary, so I'm not going to post this to GitHub. And this is going to be anything in this directory. This right here is going to be an exception rule. In most programming languages, this exclamation point is going to negate whatever comes after it logically. And this is the same within this git ignore file. So if you see up here earlier, every .py or Python file is not tracked, except this one will be. This will overwrite anything that is not being tracked. Are there any questions about how git ignore works in this basic example? Perfect. And then again, you know, in the real world, this is going to be a really powerful tool in order to not have to worry about accidentally pushing something you don't need to.
You also want to use git ignore to ignore files that are generated, like .class files. You know, when you compile your Java program, and it generates a bunch of .class. You don't want to version those files, so you want to add them to the ignore file.
Absolutely. And you could even do, if it was Java, right, you could do all of them like that, and it would be really simple. But I now have this hello world file here. We're going to switch over to my terminal. Is that easy for you guys to see there?
I mean, it's not showing anything.
Sorry?
I was talking to Trevor. I said that, okay.
So yeah, my computer is frozen.
All right, so right here, if I do any git commands, it's going to say there are no git commands. Oh, well, maybe if I typed it in right. Oh, no. Sorry, I was testing it earlier, so had to just remove that git right there. But the very first thing you're going to want to do here to actually initialize the Git repository is going to be git init. This is going to create a local Git repository in this directory here. And now that I have it, you could do a lot of things here. But first of all, what I want to do is I want to link this to some sort of repository on GitHub. And all the swapping of screens. No way, it just froze. No. No. There's no way. Am I back here? I kind of just lagged out there for a second. So we have that local Git repository initialized, but we don't have anywhere to push it to. So you see now I'm back here on GitHub. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a new repository. You can name it whatever you would like. I'm going to name this one GitHub demo. And I'm not going to add a README file or anything like that. I'm just going to create a blank repository. And this is where the SSH keys come in. So you can use this HTTPS, but it is much harder as you can't just use it on the command line and sign in using your username and password. They removed that in 2021 due to security concerns. But with SSH, you can, and you don't need to input anything at all. If you ever do need to make a repository by yourself, you don't have access to the docs or anything, everything is right here as well. So this will tell you exactly how to do it. And then you could do it a couple different ways here. We're going to be following this first method.
I think you're not showing the screen that you are talking about.
What screen is showing up for you guys? Because I have it set up to share GitHub.
It's just the dashboard on, I think on the.
It's showing GitHub now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So all I did to get there was in this upper left-hand corner here, you hit new, and then you can type in your repository name however you would like. I just created this repository, so it should already be there, but you hit create repository, and then it will pop up with this screen. And the only thing you need to know right now is to copy this as SSH. You do not want the HTTPS. You'll run into some issues there. But since we have our SSH keys set up, we can use this and it'll be nice and simple and smooth. There we go. And then to go back to the terminal, you can see we've already done the very first step that it told us here of git init. So what we're going to do next is going to be to add the remote origin. If you remember in that first video, there was a local repository and a remote repository, that remote being hosted on GitHub. And now that we have that GitHub link, you just add git remote, add origin, and then we can paste that SSH key or SSH link right there. And it looks like I've already added it to this commit or this Git repository, but that is totally okay. What we're going to do next is add git add. And there's two things that you can do here. You could do git add star, which is by far the preferred method. And this will make sure that your git ignore file is not added, and it will make sure it is also recognized as a git ignore file, and all the files in it that are not supposed to be tracked will not be tracked. You will see some people do something like this, which is git add period, which means add everything to the tracked list of files in your directory. This will ignore your git ignore. So if I do git add period, and then I do git status, which shows me the staged directory here, it actually added the git ignore file there. Just to revert that, you can always do git reset, and it will totally remove it there for you.
One thing I want to add in over here, so git ignore files can be added to your repositories, because sometimes when you're working with a couple of people, sometimes they might forget to make sure that some of the files that should not be added might be added by them. So when the git ignore is in the remote repository, so when another person comes to clone their repository onto their local, they're gonna make sure that whenever they're pushing again to the remote repository, they're not going to push all the files that are already mentioned in git ignore, because the git ignore is also present on their system.
Right.
So it's helpful to have it in the remote repository as well on GitHub.
The reason I don't is just because I guess that was always a style choice, but that does make sense that that would happen. Another command here, git commit. So you've already added it to your tracked list of files, but those have not done anything yet. You have simply changed it from your working directory to a tracked list of files. You haven't actually committed them yet. And there's going to be two ways to do that. You could do a normal git commit, and this will prompt your system to open up anything, your default text editor. This can be different among systems or OSs or whatever you have set up. Or you can do an inline commit message here with this flag of M. If you do a flag M and then message or whatever you would like to write there, that will also add that comment to your commit message. You have to send a comment every time you commit. You can't commit with nothing there, nor should you. It's really important to have those comments be descriptive of what your change is and to make it understandable at a glance, especially when you're for people who are in charge of this repository to look at and make sure that that your code is doing what they think it is as well, and exactly what you're changing. And you only have to do this git push set upstream origin master one time. So after that, you will just have to use git push. But these commands will stay the same. This order of git add, git commit, and git push will always be the same. But this is a first time extra that you add into that git push command, just to make sure that you're setting up your origin to the master branch. But let's say that you have a feature now. Oh. Benji in chat was saying that just like TJ, that git ignore in their repo was really helpful in just making sure that everyone on the team was ignoring the same files. And I think that's really important. I haven't worked too much in teams with GitHub, but I can see that being really important. I'm glad you guys brought that up. Something to take along with you guys. But now you have a new feature, right? Let's say that you pushed your hello world file to your GitHub repository successfully. You see the changes in GitHub, and now you want to add new features. And how would you do that? Well, you could add write to main, and this can lead to a lot of issues. If you add write to main and your code breaks the system, you could imagine that customers are not going to be happy, that people in charge of these companies are going to be very upset, that they are losing money, and it's all around going to be a bad scenario. Yeah, I'm just going to go through the presentation because I do think that switching between the terminal and the presentation is kind of a lot right now. And I want to make sure to respect people's time because I know it took a long time to set up those SSH keys. And here's a list of memes to make you funny, make you laugh about how all these people really do push to production in the real world. And there's a little area for you there if you would like to do that and cause a little house fire. But truly, it's a devastating mistake to make. And GitHub's really complicated, and it's an easy mistake to make. So you always want to make sure that you're checking what branch you're on. And that leads us right into what branches really are. So right now, we have this master branch, and this branch will have that single file in it. If you remember, it was a hello world file. And you could imagine that over time, that file will get more and more complicated. You want to add more and more features to it. When you add those features, you want to branch off. So you can see this feature right here. These commits, what happens here at this initial second commit where we branch off, it will copy the contents of master. You will actually be pulling master to your local repository, making your commit changes. And during this time, people can make changes to master, right? You could be working on this feature and maybe someone else is working on another feature and they're all merging in. And this can cause a lot of complexity, but it's handled by the Git system. And it's something that really makes it collaboration work well is by utilizing these branches. So say you work on your 3 features and you say, this is good, this is done. What you want to do is you'll want to pull master again to make sure any changes in between the time where you started your feature and when you finished your feature are updated and they actually could jive well with that master branch. And then you will commit it and merge it back into master there. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to go over that. But here's some of the more basic features to go over to create a new branch. So git checkout is going to be the keyword that not only creates new branches, but you can also switch between branches. The main way that it does it is that using that B flag, git checkout -B feature branch. What it's saying here is I want you to switch branches into this feature branch. And because there's a B flag, it's saying if this branch does not exist, I want you to create it. And then when you do that, just like I was using git status to see those tracked files, you use git branch A. And in my head, I read this as git branch all, and it will show you a list of everything, all the branches that are available. And it will show you specifically which one you're on as well. It'll have a little asterisk next to it. You'll be able to see that. But we made our new branch. We went into our Python file and we added another hello world. Extra complexity that no one has ever seen before. And now we're ready. We are ready to actually try to commit these changes on our feature branch. And that's where they will be committed first. So you want to switch, make sure that you're in the correct branch. This would be your feature branch, your testing branch, wherever you're doing these new changes. You want to do the same git command of git add all, whether that's a star or a period, depending on if you have that git ignore file or how you would like to set that up. Git commit, the same exact thing here. You have to have a message, and that is what that -m there does. And then you want to do git push origin feature branch. This is going to push your changes to feature branch, and this is actually going to show up on GitHub on those feature branches. So when you do that, you'll have a feature branch with new changes, and then you'll have a master branch with the old changes on it. They should be up to date in a sense that anything you didn't do should be on your branch, but anything you've added won't be on master. Are there any questions about that? I know that's kind of confusing, or it can be.
I think it's easier just to work on the main branch, especially if you have a small team. I think adding the branch stuff is really makes it much more difficult to work with.
I think it definitely can. And if you are working on your own project or a very small team, like you're saying, it probably doesn't add enough benefit for you to actually use it, right? Any project that I've made by myself, I've never used branches. But if I did, maybe you'd agree, maybe not. I'd be curious to hear what you think. But if I did have a production application and my master branch was production code, I still would want to make branches just to make sure I don't interfere with any actual users. Would you say that's correct, Professor?
If you use main branch, you just have to make sure that you do really good testing, make sure that you didn't break anything before you merge.
I've started to use branches a lot. I used to always just have a main branch, but through my classes, I learned this that make lots of small commits. And when I so basically I'll work on a file, well, a couple of files on just that feature. And when I do that, I have way more commits, and then I'll do them to a branch. But that also helps to, like when I code myself into a corner, I know the main is okay, and I can just fix the problems in that small branch, even though I'm working on those projects myself. I'm beginning to find that using the branches and the features is very helpful, and I'm finding out more every day.
Right. And you guys can kind of tell, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who have a lot of different approaches to it. And there's no one right way. And I think that's, again, back to the idea that in GitHub whenever you have a question, should I use this? Should I use that? The answer is always, it depends. And I think that adds a level of complexity. So this is something that if you were a part of a team, would definitely be talking about. And it would be a team-wide organization. And then once you actually make those changes, right? So we have our feature branch and we have our main branch and our master branch, and they're totally separate, right? Right now, the feature branch isn't helping anyone do anything. So what you have to do is you would have to merge it back into master. And this can cause some issues that we'll go over called merge conflicts that GitHub will automatically detect for you. This won't make you not have to test, as Professor Tao was talking about, because GitHub merge conflicts don't look at any logic of your code. They will just look at the files and see if they're edited in the same areas or not, and if they have conflicts there, that they can't do both of those changes at once. So what you will have to do is switch into master first, and you want to pull origin master here. And remember, we talked about pulling because you want to make sure that anything that, if Banji was working on code and I was working on code, he pushed to master before me. I want to make sure that I have all the changes that were present in master. And after doing that, you want to merge all of your features in feature branch into master. And I know the git merge feature branch may be a little counterintuitive, but what it's really saying is I want you to merge feature branch into the current branch that I'm in. And since we changed to master, that would be master. And then finally, you would want to push origin master. And this will commit all your changes directly to master. Merge conflicts, again, we just touched on it there for a second. This happens when you edit the same files or the same lines in two different places. So if I made a change in my main or my master file, and it was, let's just say it was a text file, so we're all on the same page. The first line said hello world, 2 exclamation points. And then someone else at the same company said, I want to bring this to a new level. They said hello universe, smiley face. And they both push. One of them pushes to main and one of them pushes to that feature branch. When you merge these together, it is going to give you a error, and it's going to not actually let you merge. This is one of the powers of GitHub. If you could imagine if these were functions, if I had a function and someone wrote a same function in a different way and they merged together on top of each other, GitHub could do a few different things automatically, but there's no guarantee for it to pick the right one in your circumstance. So if you edit the same lines, it could just overlap them and pick the more recent one, and that would totally delete any of the previous code. Or it could just not do it. So it chooses not to do anything and give you a merge conflict. And this will actually allow you to go in and edit the files just to make sure that you have what you would like. And then here's just an example of what we were talking about with the actual code of someone making these two files with the two different texts there. And they're also in the same file name. That is another big part of these merge conflicts, is that they only look at the same files and compare files to each other and see if there's any changes they cannot make. You check out back to master and merge in the same way. It will give you an error. And after you edit this file, you will add that file that you would like to add to master. And then you will commit it with that message there, just pushing back to master. And I hope now that after you've seen this a few times, that this is kind of making sense. These 3 commands here. If you came into this with no idea of how GitHub worked, these 3 commands, I believe, are going to be what's going to be most important for you to look at. Okay, the git add, the git commit, and the git push. So as we go through this, if you have any questions about those, please ask them. With those alone, I believe you can get a lot done with GitHub and really get your foot in the door and try to unravel this complexity. And right at the end there, git push origin master. This is really great as we were talking with single projects, solo projects, or really small groups. But as you get up into the industry and you start working in real teams, there's going to be someone who's going to want to look at what you're doing. And this is going to be where pull requests come in. And again, just right there, if you have read-write access, you own this repository, you can push these changes directly to whatever branch you would like. But otherwise, you would want to make a pull request.
Rebase.
And then we're going to talk about a pull request here. So half of this, I know TJ talked about being able to do this in command line. This is the approach that I take to pull requests, or would take, is that in the same way, I would make sure I'm in master, and I'm looking to remove that hello text file that we talked about earlier. And then I would move into this new master branch where I'm describing it within the branch name, where I'm removing hello.txt. It would create this branch. I would git remove, and I would not system remove this. That will cause some errors within Git trying to look for a file that doesn't exist. But by moving it from Git, it will remove it from your local repository. You then commit push origin to this branch called removed hello text. And after you do that, the steps that I will look are on GitHub here. We're just going to go look where pull requests are quick. So back to this little GitHub demo. If you go up to this tab here, there's going to be a lot of things here. Actions, projects, wiki, security insights setting. The one we're looking at right here is pull requests. And this is going to be where you would request that your branch becomes merged. Okay. You would request. So new pull request. Oh, it's because I don't have anything added here. Let's go to this. Right. So I actually don't have any branches on here since I'm just talking about it and make sure we kind of have an understanding of it instead of actually going through it. But ideally here, there would be a branch here that would be remove hello text. And you would want to, it would be comparing them here, and then you would create a pull request. And this is just asking permission from whoever's in charge of this repository to make this change. And this is something that you will most definitely see in the real world, where you have a manager in charge of these, making sure that not only the merge conflicts are resolved for you, but also that there's no logical or syntax errors or anything else to do with the actual code in the project. And then after you make those changes, you can see those steps here. Pull request, new pull request. Select the branch and compare it to master. Review changes, create pull request. After that PR approval, it will be merged automatically if there are no merge conflicts. And again, this would be something someone who's reviewing them who would manage that merge conflict. And then you can actually remove this branch. So this is totally, again, an organizational decision, an architectural decision. You could keep this branch for a history of it, or you could use git branch -d and then the branch name to remove it. It'll make you do it twice, one with a lowercase and one with an uppercase, just to confirm that you would like to delete it. But in something like this where you don't care about the history of it, then it's totally okay. Otherwise, to maintain that repository history, you would want to keep that branch alive.
Just want to add in one thing before we move on. So in most cases, almost 99.9% of the cases, you would not want to delete the branch. That you would only delete a branch if it's a very exceptional situation. So
right. Well, and in that example there, since it was just my own project, there was no side effects. But TJ is absolutely right. He's absolutely right in saying that that is a big issue, because one of the biggest parts of GitHub is going to be that history management that you are allowed.
Yep.
And then one of the last things here that I did want to touch on was the README file. And this is something that I think a lot of people miss out on, right? So a README file is going to be a .md file type, and this is going to be a GitHub markup language. So there's going to be a lot of things you can do in here to just kind of style your project and give it a sense that you actually really wanted to present it well. You know, if I have a project here, this is a board game that I wrote in Java. This README here tells people what the features are, what the game is. It tells them how to actually get it onto their machine using git clone, how to actually get into the directories, all these things. It shows file structure. And I also have a license down here so that if anyone uses this, that my butt is covered legally and that they have guarantees that they're allowed to use it. MD markup is nice and easy to use. I use it for all my documentation files. It is really nice. It is. And maybe you'll know some things about it that I don't, so feel free to interject there. One of the first things that I'll talk about here are the headers. So if you look at this header here, this is going to be the biggest one in this entire file. And that's denoted because it has this hashtag here. And it is a little counterintuitive here where the less hashtags you have, the bigger it will be. So this one hashtag is the biggest it will be, and I believe it goes up to 6, which will still be a heading type text, but it will be much smaller. And you can see down here, features is just a little bit smaller than this Go board game. And this allows it to give this really structured look instead of just like a text file explaining how to do things. Another thing here is to make line breaks. 2 spaces and an enter will just allow you to have line breaks. You can also do, I believe you can also do this with an asterisk, and it will make an unordered list type of format here. And I can have this go all the way down as well. And then one of the things that I found was really cool as well, if you notice down here with these git clones, that there's actually a copy button that the user can just click there and it copies the entire text, making it so there's 0 way that they can error and not, for instance, not copy git or not copy a single letter. And this makes it easier to kind of give these instructions out to people. And this is going to be by using the triple backtick. Let's see if I can zoom in. I forgot what these are called. The back ticks. I don't know. A lot of people call them different things. But 3 backticks and then whatever language you would like. Right now I just have it in Bash. But if I wanted to do it in JavaScript or Java, I could do that as well. It won't change how it looks because there's actually no JavaScript code in there. But, oops, I can do a little example here. So now I have this Python style of syntax coloring, where now it should be a little bit more colorful, and I don't have to automatically choose how it would look. See, print is pink or purple there, and this string is now blue. So you're able to actually have some code in here if you wanted to do examples, and it wouldn't just be a plain black text, which adds another level of just presentation that I think makes it look really good for someone who's looking at your GitHub repository. And I'm sure most of us are hoping that the people looking at our repositories are going to be recruiters or people hoping to give us a job. So just that little extra shows that you care and could really help you in the long run there. Another thing here is this pre-code. By wrapping a text in pre-code, it is going to make sure to keep all of the white space. So if I just had this here, I don't have any line breaks set up here. If I got rid of this pre-code here, this entire file structure would totally just fall apart. If you see it. Sorry about that. Just down here that it totally lost all of its line breaks and all of its white space. And then by adding that back, it looks nice and pretty all of a sudden. And then those are kind of the most important things that I see within the markup. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Banji, since you use it so much?
Just that you'll actually find that markup in other language, in other places. It's really nice because all you need to know is the hash or the pound for headings. Depending on how many you have, it shows what level of heading. Also that there's a dash, which is for all the dash is for bullets. I think a number dot is for numbered bullets. And also, if you can go to Git, can you go back to your GitHub, please?
Yeah, I could do that here. Let me just change
And
my.
then, yeah, then if you go to issues, so can you look for where it says issues? Yeah, click the issues.
I'm just trying to get out of here
Okay,
quick.
thank you.
Yeah.
And I found this really, really useful sometimes. But so if you create a new issue,
Sure thing.
and instead of having to go outside somewhere else on our team to say what we need to do, you can just create an issue. So give it a title. Like, yeah.
UI bug.
And then do you see that if you look at you see where it says preview header, and then go back, and then do you see back, and then do you see like after the bullets, go past the bullets, go past the indentation. Now click on that. No, go back to where you just right there after the indentation, the next icon after the indentation. Maybe I can circle it.
I have unordered list, number list, and task list.
Yes, then go to the task list. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now just type something for the first task. No, delete that. You want the task back. Go to the first one. Okay, press task list again. And now just go outside that. Okay, that's fine.
It's not supposed to be within the brackets.
But just press enter and go create. I don't think it's supposed to be inside the brackets. And you see it's inside the brackets. So go and so you can go and go back and then press that task list again.
And then just
and now go outside, press the task list again, go outside. Right, now type something. And then press enter.
Oh, it comes with this little, I can preview it here.
Yes. And so all you can do, a nice side to do that is I'll just make a task list. And then when everything is done, I can just check and say that we're done. Right? So I'm finding that really, really nice to use. And so that along with the commit messages and the pull requests, instead of having to go outside of GitHub or look at different screens, you can just look right there. And then also the reason why I wanted to show that is when you're over there, you can also using the MD markup. That's a whole reason it came here. So yeah.
Right.
You can use the MD markup there.
You're here because you could just click heading and it'll automatically populate
Yeah.
it for you or
Mhm.
bold,
Yeah.
bold with stars to go around it.
Yeah.
Again, the documentation on the markup is pretty huge. I didn't realize how, like you were saying, that it's used in a lot of different places. But that is really interesting.
One way I want to show how you can do this is if I can share my screen.
Yeah,
The issues. So this is one way you can use the issues. Like how Banji said, you can have individual, like instead of having all of them in one issue, you could just create it like a bunch of issues, and then you can assign it to uh, each member, and then if once it's completed, you could just close issue, and then it's marked as closed. So this is quite helpful actually. You can keep track of uh, features and bugs that you want to get fixed, and then you can also use the hash number 27 over here like that in the I believe it's in the pull request. You can actually have that number and link it to that issue. I'm not sure I have it here, but so you can use that hash like 26 in a pull request in the beginning of it, and that will link to this issue. So when you click on the issue, it'll show up that piece of that pull request and all the comments related to that as well.
Yeah, and these issues, like they were saying, it sounds very powerful, especially in these classes that we have. I know a lot of people like to use Discord to communicate with their group members or email. But if it's all on GitHub, that could be really helpful, especially if you're in a class where, it's really hard to get people to respond on their phone or by email. It's going to be on GitHub and they're going to be using it. So they'll have to see it eventually.
Yep, everything is documented and
something else about that, like I've decided to say that we should just put everything, UML diagrams, everything just on GitHub instead of having it on Figma or somewhere else. Just put everything in there. We can still have links to other places because you might have made it elsewhere. But I just feel like it's so much easier.
Yeah, you can have like a docs folder, and then have all the wireframes in here, like that. And then you can have all these specifications of how basically the documentation of all the features, how everything works, and uh, how you want to design everything. Like you see the UML diagram over here.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
And you can write all your docs in MD.
Yeah.
Or most of them.
Yeah, most of them are in MD, yeah.
Right.
You can link images. One thing I also wanted to share is so when you're creating applications, you will most probably run into folders like build.gradle. Folders like these, they can be added to the git ignore. So you can see .gradle all the build file. It usually contains all the class files and uh, all the compiled files. And then you can have all of these files. There are quite a lot of files that are usually not supposed to be committed to the repo. So that's why we most teams prefer to use gitignore in the remote repository as well.
Also to ignore the IDE.
Yep. See, yeah, the IDE files, like this is for IntelliJ, Eclipse. This is for NetBeans, VS Code, even for Mac. Mac will also create these specific files. So it's easier to make sure that the gitignore is properly set up first, and then on the first commit to the repository, you might want to keep a gitignore in there so that all these files don't end up in there, and then you have to go through the trouble of trying to delete them. It doesn't look as well on the repository history as well.
Would you mind if I showed my gitignore?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'd love to
I
see
can
it.
share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. Because I learned some things about it when I was having to deal with different directories. I think TJ already did this. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. So if I go here, my git ignore, you see I'm ignoring these. And by default, I would just want, and over here it's saying ignore everything, I believe. And it's including these directories, ignore this. But now there's some directories I do want it to look at. So any file that has these extensions, I want it to keep. But then I want it to, so you see not, ignore everything, but not SRC, not the source or anything. And if you want it to include recursively, you have to put these 2 stars. And I should have done that over here for include, but there's only one directory in there. And then also you don't want to ignore this because I don't want to ignore this and my documentation. So that's just what I wanted to show, and I'll stop sharing.
That was
The
great.
big thing, yeah, the big thing was about recursively including directories, which it took me a little bit to learn.
So I just have one more thing I wanted to throw in the comment, into the chat here. So a lot of GitHub is going to be used for you hosting your own projects or people hosting their projects. But since it's such a big space for developers, there's a lot of repos out there who are specifically designed for developers to use and to either use as a library, use as an open source project to work together on, or just have a list of useful information. So I throw in this in the chat here. Here's just a list of a couple repos here. The first one is SciPy, which if anyone in here has used Python in a data analytics sense, you've probably used SciPy or you've at least downloaded it as part of another tool. It's very cool, very amazing open source project that's been going around for, I want to say, over a decade. I know it's getting up there. Another one is this Build Your Own X repository, which will give you the tools and resources to build your own whatever. There's a really large list of things there, and I can share my screen and go over some of them right now. And I think this is something that really helps us, at the stage where we are. We might not be able to know everything about how to set things up. But it'll give you step-by-steps. For instance, if you want to make a 3D renderer, it could show you how to do it in C++, C Sharp, and it can go through all these different things, or Python, and it will really just kind of help you get a direction of where to go. And they have a lot more, simplistic things. They have more complicated things, but it's a pretty large list here of things that you could do. Another one is going to be this public API list that I've used personally. And they just have a bunch of different ones for any category you can imagine here, and it tells you if you need a key for it, if it's HTTPS, all these different things. And this is going to be really useful because most of the time when I'm looking to make an application, I want to work with real data, but I don't think many of us have pockets deep enough to go out and buy real data. So the next best thing is going to be to borrow it and access it through these APIs. So those are just 3 examples of some really good repos that can really, thank you, Benji, that can really help you out. And since that is the end of the presentation, is there any questions that people have? I know this was kind of, some parts of it may have been a little lackluster, a little bit of conflict on Zoom, but I really want to make sure that people did gain something out of this. So if you have any questions, please let me know. You probably are not the only one.
I recommend we do more GitHub workshop where it's hands-on, where people actually get to do some commit.
Yeah, I would have loved to do that. That was a big part of what I had planned, but with it being on Zoom, it was just, it took a lot of time and all these things. But I would absolutely love to do that.
Yeah, probably like next
week.
Time. Yeah, because right now it's just an introduction to GitHub. So people will not remember after a week or 2. Actually, it's only people that should do it that they remember. So maybe like before the semester end, you could have another one where you actually has hand-on activity for them to do.
And hopefully it won't be snowing a ton and the roads.
By then it'll be spring, I hope.
Hopefully. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. I think coming up we have a couple leak code events planned just to work with that. But the next available date, I'll make sure to do some hands-on stuff there because I feel like that would have been where most of the value was here. And I do feel kind of bad we weren't able to touch on that as much as I wanted.
It's good. It's good because some people actually don't know Git at all. So this is like the first time they see it. And if you had to make them do hands-on, they will really struggle. So this is actually a good introduction.
That's good. And everyone has their SSH keys set up, so you never have to go through that again. So that's good. Yeah. I know I was happy when I was finished with it. The first time I ever set them up.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. This was very good. Most of the things were like just new to me. I got to learn a lot. Also, I see you're recording it. Is it possible to send the recording?
Yeah, so just because I think some people's SSH keys were shown during the recording, I'm going to go and just make sure to blur those or something like that, or just edit it so those aren't showing. But yeah, I'm going to make sure to. That would
be great.
Yeah, post it in the Discord. Is everyone in the Discord there?
I don't think I am there.
It's okay. I'll make sure to do it. I think on Engage, I also have a gallery that I have the ability to post videos to. So it could be on Engage as well. But it really, for
Can
sure.
Can I send my Discord? Is it possible, or I can join right now?
I sent the link in the chat, but if you want to send me your username, I can add you and invite you that way too.
Okay.
But yeah, anything else people wanted to talk about?
Oh yeah. Trevor did post the invite in the chat, so you can join.
Yeah, otherwise you can send me a private message with your Discord username or public or whatever you would like.
Yeah, I just sent it.
Okay. Perfect. I got you there. And I do try to communicate through email, but Discord is normally the one where most people are going to see it. All right, I just sent you a friend request there.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Why my voice is like repeating? Yeah, okay. I was just gonna say like everybody like shared their own tips and tricks. They were also like very helpful and entire presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Banji and TJ, and Professor Tao. You know, you guys really helped me out a lot in this presentation, so I appreciate you.
Well, again, I'll just say, Trevor, this was really great. Thanks. And yeah, what you did was awesome. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. I actually learned a couple of things myself as well.
Yeah, well, and I was going to touch on some other things like stashing, and I was going to try to watch a video on rebasing and try to do that, but I think that might have been a little too much.
We can plan that for another day.
Another day
Yeah.
indeed.
The command for rebasing is really, really simple. I feel like what you went through, what you showed, especially with the git, pull, the commit, the add, the push, that has more. I feel like and the merge, that has more value.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal view, because if you rebase, you lose a lot of stuff.
Right. Well, it makes a copy of all your commits and then turns it into
Yeah.
a linear history, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And again, back with like deleting branches, keeping a history is really important in Git and GitHub.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I have for you fine people. I'm glad you guys can make it. You know, if you're ever looking to do something again, we have LeetCode, some LeetCode events coming up. We'll do another one of these. We also have some social events. You know, first of every month, we get pizza, pop, hang out, just at the student center. So keep an eye on Engage, and you'll be up to date. All right. Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Hey, good job, Trevor.
Thanks. I appreciate your help a lot, man. I mean, that was a little bit of a struggle. I felt like halfway through, I honestly almost felt like giving up, but I didn't.
Oh, no. You